And as long as they don't get involved, the prospect that people were expressing fears of World War III breaking out won't happen, because what I'm seeing is tremendous momentum behind the UDF, the Congress-led alliance. I would say that this election is now very much ours to lose. Yes, the dates have
Ours to lose
in other words,
is
we will
the
win.
problem.
We will win, is what I mean. And similarly, why do I have to say Keralam in English? It's an unnecessary change. And what's worse is the tokenism, the empty symbolism it implies.
We have Dr. Shashi Tharoor in the house. That's enough cause to applaud.
Thank you.
See, I mean, the only politician, I think, who gets whistled at. What is this?
And I can't even do any martial arts moves.
We'll ask Aishwarya to help you.
Oh,
Yeah?
she already has. We've had a wonderful little lesson right there.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a little duet between you and Aishwarya at the end. He's already injured in one foot. You can probably do.
Listen, I'm handicapped. I've got an air cast on my right foot.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but really, Dr. Tharoor, what is going on in the world right now? I think as someone who served 29 years at the United Nations, no one better than you to tell us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think
Complete disorder.
it certainly is a new world disorder,
Yeah.
to borrow the title of one of my books. But it's also, frankly, a situation where I think Prabhu was just telling me in his panel this morning, no one could agree on what was going on and where it would come out. And I think that's broadly understandable. One of the things that liberal arts equips you to do is to try and understand these phenomena that are not so easily decipherable. You can have data, but how the data matters, where it matters, why it matters, those are the things that liberal arts equip you to do. And I would say that if one were to look at this situation from the liberal arts perspective, from an understanding of global geopolitics as well as geoeconomics, I would say that a number of factors are at play. There is undoubtedly Israel's insecurity about Iran. Israel has been very worried for some time that they think that the one power in the entire region that wishes to annihilate it as a state is Iran. And that I'm not sure how realistic that fear is, but there has been a lot of Iranian rhetoric that might have led Israel to that conclusion.
But Israel doesn't need a reason. I mean, it
No,
doesn't
and the
need
fact that
provocation.
Iran has been developing nuclear weapons has been keeping people on tenterhooks for some time. Now, what's interesting about this is that, as you know, they tried the diplomatic route. And we hear from the Omanis that the talks had made a lot of progress and that the Iranians had been prepared to commit to zero enrichment and no nuclear weapons, in which case, why the war? And that's where the motivations of Washington come into play. Could it be that they wanted to do something on a more globally ambitious scale to change the regime in Iran in order to achieve a number of goals at the same time? Yes, Israeli security is one thing. The other would have been, perhaps, I'm just thinking out loud, to try and get Iran's oil into the world oil market. Currently, Iranian oil is sanctioned by the Americans. If you get Iranian oil into the world oil market, just as you got Venezuelan oil into the world oil market, you do two things simultaneously. You keep oil prices low for the American consumer who's going to be voting in midterm elections, but you also reduce Russia's leverage as an energy supplier to the rest of the world as well as to Europe. And simultaneously, you cut the Chinese down to size. China is right now Iran's biggest patron. It is the biggest purchaser of Iranian oil and gas, amongst other things. And they're also involved in helping build Iranian infrastructure and so on. So an Iran that moves out of that peculiar geopolitical isolation it's in now and becomes instead in the Western orbit would be of some interest to America. But the problem America has is they're not willing to put boots on the ground. And changing regimes from the air doesn't work that easily. So if you wanted to put all of that together, I would say that my suspicion is it started off with this Israeli insecurity, got morphed into a very ambitious Washington scheme to rewrite the global order and bring Iran into the Western orbit. And what we are seeing right now is phase one of that unfolding. How long it will take, how much worse it will get, remains to be seen. Certainly, the countries of the Gulf are suffering a lot in the short term. Their airfields are closed, their economies are taking a hit. Everything from the Dubai property market to oil prices coming out of the Middle East are all being affected. There is a tremendous amount of shock and uncertainty going on right now in the region. Perhaps we might be witnessing a repetition of what happened when the Russians marched into Ukraine and thought they would capture Kyiv in 2 weeks. And now 4 years later, we're looking at 1.5 million war casualties and 5 million displaced persons.
No one reads history.
No one needs that in the Middle East. Certainly we don't either. We want to see stability and calm in our neighborhood. So I would say that this uncertainty remains, but in trying to fathom the whys and the wheres, this is the best that I could come up with, because at least it gives a more sort of rational explanation for what seems otherwise to be a rather irrational action, seemingly born out of haste and pique at a time when apparently a diplomatic compromise was on the verge of attainment, according to the Omani sources.
Have you ever met President Trump?
Actually, I haven't. Amusingly enough,
Really?
we shared a city
But
for a couple of decades.
You were
I
in
know.
New York for years. How come you never ran into him?
I've met almost all his predecessors going back to the early 80s, but I've never met him.
Really?
Mind you, at the time that I could have met him, when he was a social animal in New York, we weren't frequenting the same social circles.
That's why we have not heard your name in a certain files that we will not mention. Good for you, you kept out of that.
I did keep out of that,
Yeah.
very much so.
But to go back to the world order, where does this leave China and Russia? Two countries that the US should actually be worried about the most.
Well, I mean, I would say that right now they both criticize the action, but neither has said anything to imply that they want to get involved. And as long as they don't get involved, the prospect that people were expressing fears of World War III breaking out won't happen, because World War III requires much more than Iran on one side and America on the other. It would have to require more and more countries mobilizing on both sides, and currently that's not happening. It's just two countries in the West, US and Israel, and one country, Iran. Russia and China have not got involved, not even offered to send any support. And as far as the Americans are concerned, even the Brits, who have normally tagged along for every American adventure or misadventure, including Iraq, they have stayed out. They have stayed out.
Has come undone.
So far, yeah.
Where does this leave Mr. Modi and India?
I think our line appears to be to try and get both sides to de-escalate. I think our foreign minister has spoken to his counterparts in both Iran and Israel, and that suggests that we are genuinely interested in peace. Look, I don't see that India has any interest whatsoever in seeing this conflict.
About oil, I guess.
No, we don't want to see this conflict prolonged.
Yeah.
Apart from oil, we've got millions of people in that area.
Exactly.
And
our own
these
people.
missiles falling down, some of them will rain down on Indian heads. We don't really want that.
And okay, let's talk about home, maybe. We don't have that much time, so we'll talk about Kerala. Elections, Congress prospects, your campaigning. What's happening there?
What I'm seeing is tremendous momentum behind the UDF, the Congress-led alliance. I would say that this election is now very much ours to lose. Yes, the dates have
Ours to lose
in other words,
is the problem.
We will win, is what I mean. That it'll be difficult for the other side to pull it off unless we somehow screw up and throw it away, which I don't think is going to happen. In other words, this is for the first time very clearly looking like a UDF victory. You know, we haven't won a state assembly election in Kerala. We've only won one election since 2006. And in that one election, we won by a very narrow margin, 72 to 68 in an assembly of 140. So right now, the polls are suggesting that we'll have a minimum of 85 to 55. So it's looking like a very, very good lead going forward. And I'm expecting to sustain that. I was in Kerala till a couple of days ago. I was campaigning, and I'm getting very, very good feedback everywhere.
And everyone wants you to be chief minister?
No, not at all. Certainly not. And in fact, to begin with, these in the Congress party are futile plans to make, because we do leave it to the high command, as you well know. And I'm not a candidate. I'm actually very focused on Parliament and my role as an MP for Thiruvananthapuram.
But you've already declared that this is going to be your last term.
Yes, but at the same time, there's 3 years left of this term, so I'm not
Can
going to
always
be...
be elected MLA later.
Thank you, Kaveri. Since you're offering it to me, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
quite
of
sure where
course.
it's going to go.
No, but seriously, what do you feel that the High Command this time is focused on winning Kerala, not letting it sort of slip out of its
Yeah,
grasp
I think,
as it has,
you know,
unfortunately,
for
a lot of other
55
states.
years, there was an alternation of governments in
Yeah,
Kerala.
always, and then
Until
it
last time.
seemed
And
to-
last time, the communist-led Left Front came back
came
to
back,
power.
which was very unusual.
Very unusual, and certainly coming back for a third time in a row would not only be unprecedented, it would really be a miracle for them to pull off. So all the dice, all the logic, everything is in our favor. But since we were going to talk about liberal arts, let me say precisely that's precisely where the liberal arts sensibility is needed, because in these kinds of calculations, you just look straight at the mathematics, you look straight at the trends, you get one answer. But you look at how human beings behave, vote, care, think, are prejudiced, then you get a different answer.
That's right. And we never know how the Congress High Command thinks, feels, behaves. Or do we now?
Now,
Have you
Kaveri.
made up with them?
Yes, yes, very much so.
And you had a nice conversation. Did they offer you coffee, tea?
Very much so,
sympathy?
very much so.
So what is the result of that?
The result of all that, as you
That
see,
you
is
have stopped speaking up for the
I'm
NDA
campaigning.
government.
No, I've never spoken of the NDA government except
Operation
an Operation Sindoor, which I certainly still believe very strongly in as something
Well,
we
were
felt
they not
we had
upset
to.
with you for
Yeah,
you-
they were, and you know, we're not going to go there anymore because that debate is
How
now
did
behind
they
us.
express their...
No, as you know, there was
displeasure?
a debate in Parliament, so you know the views of the Congress Party.
Privately.
And I did not speak in Parliament because we have a very clear parliamentary culture that whatever differences of opinion you have, you find ways of expressing it. But within Parliament, we keep a united front. And I never spoke in Parliament at all against the Congress on these matters. But my own view has been expressed both in my personal writings and speeches and in my personal statements. And I've made it clear all along that I'm speaking for myself. I'm not really pretending to represent anyone else's point of view. The Congress has very effectively put its own point of view across, and you know what it is. I'll leave it there.
And are they in a position now to, at some point, offer a leadership role to you in Kerala back home?
I don't think that's on the anvil, and at this stage, I've certainly not asked for any role. All I've said, basically, is that after this conversation, we're on the same page, and I'm moving forward on the same page with the rest of the Congress. And that, frankly, at this point in Kerala, that is the need of the hour. We need a united party.
Keralam, we have to call it.
Well, Keralam, as soon as the constitutional amendment and the presidential proclamation, all that have come, which they haven't yet. All we have so far is a cabinet decision, so we can still say Kerala. But you have been saying Kerala in your questions anyway, Kaveri.
Yeah, I know. But do we have to say, I mean,
I mean, I
does
think
it make a difference?
I think it's so foolish. We've been saying Keralam in Malayalam for a long time.
Yeah.
When I speak in English, I say India. In Malayalam, I say Bharatam. I mean, who cares? It doesn't make any difference to anybody. I don't know why we should suddenly insist that I have to say Bharatam in English. I won't. And similarly, why do I have to say Keralam in English? It's an unnecessary change. And what's worse is the tokenism, the empty symbolism it implies. This is a government where the people of Kerala have been asking for very many fundamental things.
Yeah.
Fundamental things from an AIMS, which was promised 12 years ago and has still not been delivered, to help on coastal erosion, assistance packages for our fisher folk, our deprived agricultural communities. We have so many issues on which we're stretching our hands out as if we're looking for bread or manna or rice or whatever, and we get a suffix. We get an M. I mean, come on. This is the central government wants to show that it's done something for Kerala, but it also wants to make sure it costs it absolutely nothing. And that's why they've done it. It hasn't cost them anything to give an M.
It's created an alternative little cottage industry of people who will now be creating signages, etc.
So letterhead printers, sign painters, people who have to change the names of things, stationery, visiting cards. Maybe a small little boomlet in their income for a short while. But honestly, I mean, it's preposterous. And of course, don't forget the Madras High Court is still the Madras High Court, even though Tamil Nadu became Tamil Nadu in the 1960s.
And it's still IIT Madras, not
It's
IIT
still IIT
Chennai.
Madras. It's still IIT Bombay, as far as I
IIT
know.
Bombay.
And Maharashtra went to Mumbai in the 1990s. So some changes will take a long time to be effected. I'm not sure who gets happy with this, but the left government, which has nothing else to show for its 10 years of record, is going around acting as if this is some great act of decolonization or liberation. And the BJP is very happily complicit in this misadventure. I don't see anything but cynicism all around in this exercise.
But do you actually feel that the left government has nothing to show for what it's been doing? What about the idea of exterminating or, eliminating extreme poverty, which they've been talking about?
There is some disputes about the figures. I don't want to knock any of those things because I think it's very important. But let's not forget that you're not starting off from where Bihar was or whatever. Kerala has always been ahead on social indicators, economic indicators, and human development indicators. And the distance between Kerala and other states shot up once the Gulf money also started coming in, remittances fueled the economy and all of that. There is also a social component. COVID, for example, was not solely a triumph of the government. It was also the fact that the entire society is geared up to be able to respond and cope effectively.
As they did during the floods as well.
And how the society acted during the floods, how people came together during coping with everything from the Nipah. It's a very strong civic society. It's highly literate, highly cultured, very united. There is practically no communal disturbance. It's a state which has a lot of things to demonstrate to the rest of India. And what I'm increasingly pleased about is the number of North Indians who come there and discover it with great satisfaction and write about it.
I would like to move officially.
You're most welcome. We have there are some ghost towns that have come up because more and more Keralites, unable to find employment in Kerala, are migrating and not coming back. And they're leaving lovely empty homes behind.
Oh, please. I'm going to bag one
The BBC, if you can Google it, has actually got an article about the ghost town in the district of Pathanamthitta, where there are some 120 fancy houses, all owned by expats. Nobody around.
I'm going there.
There you are.
No, but that's so wonderful, isn't it? That you have so much diversity still in this country where so much uniformity is sort of being hammered at you every night and every day. So sort of the people of India are still very much apart from the state of India, isn't it?
No, I think what's true is that in many ways, the diversity of India is our biggest strength. It's part of the richness of our state. But as far as Kerala is concerned, what I was partly smiling about is actually not a smiling matter, because the reason people are leaving is because of the economic failure of the state. If you'll see in the last year or two, I have published articles, including in your newspaper, the New Indian Express, about Kerala's frustrations, challenges, and hopes. And we need a tremendous amount of changes. We need a new imagination to transform the state for the future. We have to have ideas, and that's what I'm trying to put forward, because otherwise our young people will have no reason to remain. I do a lot of convocations. I must have done about 75 convocations in the last decade. And I often find myself asking people, so what are you going to do next? So we're going abroad. Why won't you stay in Kerala? What is there for me here, says one young man. Isn't Kerala an old age home? Now, I'm getting old, and I wouldn't mind going old in Kerala, much more so than in Delhi or anywhere else. But that's not good enough anymore. We need to keep our young people in the state so that they can actually contribute to the well-being of the old as well. And that will not happen unless we can generate jobs. Jobs will not be generated unless we can attract investment. And investment will not come as long as the fear is that the red flags will come out and start harassing business people.
But
so I've got a lot of...
been quite open to business.
When they're in power, they have been open to business, and the people have not been willing to trust them. Because the fear is the moment they're in the opposition, they'll get up to their old tricks again. I need to be very blunt with you and say I'm proposing a number of radical measures, from banning hartals to introducing an Investor Protection Act that will actually guarantee that people's capital will be safe if it's invested in Kerala.
What else is part of this new imagination?
Well, we haven't released a manifesto yet, but a number of ideas are kicking around. I believe we can learn a lot from foreign countries. There's a great deal we can learn from Northern Europe on education. There's stuff we can learn from Norway on fishing and pisciculture. We can learn from the Netherlands on sustainable farming practices in small areas of land, including vertical farming, greenhouse farming. There's a lot we can do in terms of genetics. There are areas like Iceland and Israel we can learn from when it comes to how we can leverage our own biogenetics into new biotechnology ventures. There's a lot we can do. We can transform our hospitality culture and our tourism culture along with our health culture, into a major new holistic wellness approach.
That's already there.
But combining Ayurveda with our strengths in conventional thing. Plus, Kerala is the first aging state in India.
Yeah.
We can really become a national leader in geriatric care,
Right.
construct retirement villages and so on for the older people, start attracting older people from other states to our state.
Yeah.
Because we have, again, a good culture of nursing and of medical care.
Yes, of course.
Train them for gerontology and geriatrics, have them helping old people. There's a lot we should be doing. We need to now have a difference of kind and not just a difference of degree in what our strengths are.
Is that manifesto coming out anytime soon?
It will soon, but these are my personal ideas that I'll continue advocating whenever the new EDF government comes in. They'll be hearing from me, even from outside.
If I were to ask you to give us one word, and we always look to you for words, about the state of the world right now.
Turbulent, unpredictable.
Those are words even I can come up with.
But that's true. Those are the right words to come up with.
Something interesting.
That's very interesting. It's true also. It's an accurate reflection. Because honestly, what is the word you want? Incertitude, I can offer that to you.
That's very nice. What does it mean?
Incertitude means uncertainty.
Uncertainty, okay.
And there is a lot of uncertainty about. Look, let's face it. The moment, since our official topic has long since been cast to the wayside,
this is all,
it was
the
supposed to
whole
be about
idea-
liberal arts.
The
Let me
whole
say,
idea of liberal arts is that Dr. Tharoor is an example of what a good liberal arts education can get you. So
Clever girl.
that is self-evident. It is a self-evident truth.
clever girl.
So-
I ran into the Vice Chancellor of JNU on the flight. I don't know if she's here. And I told her I was going to be defending liberal arts this afternoon. She said she was very happy and she will come and listen. But I can see she backed out. She must have known that you were not going to ask me about liberal arts.
No, liberal arts is really why we have someone like you and why it's so important. Because I can't think of any AI that is going to speak as well or as articulate things as well as someone like you would, isn't it? I think you had an AI competition recently with a robot or something.
No, I wish that.
Who won?
Don't
The robot or you?
don't give that idea to anybody.
That's a very good idea. We should try that
next year.
Yeah.
At the Education Conclave. No, let me say, to be very honest, that
Yeah.
that what one comes up with after whatever sort of nearly 70 years of being around the
And
planet
how many
reading
years of
stuff.
education actually?
Well, I don't think I've ever stopped learning. Have you? I mean, I
Oh,
genuinely believe.
Actual education.
No, actual education I finished in 100 hurries. So I got 3 degrees by the time I was
Right.
22.
You got your PhD by the time you were 22.
22, yeah.
Guys,
So, and I've collected a few honorary ones thereafter as well. But apart from that, the fact is that I genuinely actually have kept my eyes and ears open. And I often tell young people,
I mean, did you see him doing that Swifty pose? You've got to do it today.
Which one?
The Fate of Ophelia. He actually did the Swifty
Go to
dance.
Instagram. That's enough. Once is enough. I'm not going to
Please
do an Aishwarya's
Google-
dance for you.
Please Google him and see him doing the Fate of Ophelia dance. It's amazing. I mean, even Taylor Swift would be very impressed.
Now, I'd much rather learn martial arts. I don't know those either. But let me just say that, honestly, what really matters, I think, is, your mind should be like a parachute. Just as you don't want to jump out of a plane with a closed parachute and forget to open it, do not go through life with a closed mind. That might be the most useful advice I can give because, honestly, as long as your mind is open, you learn every day, and there is a lot to learn, including perhaps from AI and so on, because what they're offering is extremely important. But the worry I have for the next generation, the one that's growing up with AI, is where the AI will start substituting for their thought and their thinking. Because if they allow that AI to take over that process for them, we will be a deeply impoverished species. Right now, what we've got going for us is that even if you and I are going to get some information out of AI, we will be applying our trained minds to it and to evaluating it, applying it, using it. And we still know that AI can't replace our sense of ethics, our feelings, our emotions, our experiences. I was talking to a writer who said, how can an AI write like me? An AI hasn't been betrayed by his wife or beaten by his father or whatever. And I thought, oh my gosh, all right, fair enough. He writes with those experiences informing his heart and soul and pen. And AI will never do that. AI will just know how to manipulate words and text and data. And that ultimately is where it is. I think that what you're seeing today in all the emphasis on science education, even in today's newspaper, the New Indian Express, there was somebody suggesting that you should abolish a number of courses in the liberal arts. And my worry with all of that is, you abolish all these courses, fair enough, but all the data that you're going to be generating, how are people going to understand the world in which the data is to be applied and the human beings who've generated that data and who will be affected by the data? That's what liberal arts gives you. There's this amazing experience. I remember I wrote a column about this 20 years ago in whatever paper I was writing a column in those days, which was Oxford University did a study in 2006, I think it was, or maybe seven, that showed that of all the terrorist incidents in the world in the previous 15 years, 1990 to 2005, they analyzed every single terrorist incident they could find, and they discovered to their horror that 96% of the terrorists involved were engineers. Now, they were not suggesting that all engineers are terrorists, but they were certainly saying that at that point, most terrorists were engineers. And why was that? The only logical conclusion is that when you are trained to think in black and white terms, in binary terms, switch on and off terms, that this works this way, this doesn't work this way, that does that, that's that. You think in terms of certitudes. Yeah. You think in terms of this is the way the world's going to be. And that kind of mind is susceptible also to the argument that there is only one way of seeing the world, that there is only one right and one wrong, one good and one evil, one true faith and one false faith. Right. All of that. And that's what led people, they say, to extreme steps like terrorism. So you need, through liberal arts, the capacity to understand that there are nuances, there are shades of gray and not just black and white. There are abilities in the part of the world to be able to understand human motivations, including the irrational ones. If you have liberal arts, you are equipped better to see the reality of the world and to work with it.
And anyway, liberal arts cannot predict what you're going to write or what you're going to think.
That's right.
A day from now. It can tell you what you'll do now, but it can't tell you what you'll do tomorrow.
Exactly.
Or how you'll write tomorrow.
Or whether I'll be around tomorrow.
No, you'll be around. We may well see him as Chief Minister of Kerala, right? So a huge round of applause to everyone for Dr. Tharoor from everyone. Thank you so much, always. And we didn't steer away from the topic. We stuck to it.
We ended up with it anyway. Thank you, Kama.
Thank you.
Good talking to you all.
Thank you so much.
May I kindly call upon Mr. Prabhu Chawla to join us on stage to present a very special token of our appreciation to Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Ladies and gentlemen, a wonderful conversation, of course, as in-depth as possible.
I'm going to ask one question.
Sir. Yes, sir.
You are now always seen on the right side of Modi government. Are you on the right side of your party or not?
Very much so. In fact, within the party, I'm seen as being on the right side.
You see? It means your party is on the wrong side.
No. There is not only right and wrong, there's also right and left. That's what I meant.
And that, ladies and gentlemen,
he left the party, but he's right or left.
I think we've got the perfect room here. We could go on for a little bit more of a back and forth. But of course, please do put your hands together as we extend our thanks to Dr. Shashi Tharoor. And thank you, Mr. Chawla.